Good afternoon. Let me welcome everyone and thank all of you for coming and being with us today. All right, today is about giving the public the information they need for um, what's to be expected in the next coming days as we deal with the hurricane and what the watches and things were. Um, the majority of your questions will go to Director Jones, all right, who will do all the technical things, and then the visitors, the mayor and the rest who will come and they can have their say as well. Let me say this before we begin. Mayor Sessions was on the call with us this morning, but she can't come because she is recovering from COVID. She and her sister have COVID, and so she wanted to be here, but she conveyed to me that they're quarantined now, or they locked in place, okay, because of COVID. So with that, let me call Director Jones, who will give you all the technical information that you would need to know, that the public needs to know. And let me just end by saying, please, ladies and gentlemen in the public, let's be safe as we go through these changes that we're about to go through in the next 48 to 72 hours. Director Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome everyone today. Welcome the viewing audience to talk about what our potential impacts could be for Hurricane Ian. I do want to recognize several people who are with us today. We have translating for us in American Sign Language, Ms. Sandra Batista. We also have someone translating for us in Spanish. Her name is Lady. I don't see her right now. She will be here in a minute. We also have the mayor of Savannah with us today. We have the city manager of Savannah with us today as well. Also Chief Hadley with CCPD. And we also have the Board of Education Police Chief, Chief Enoch. We also have several other people behind me. I'm sure you recognize many of them, and they are here to support the overall message going out to the general public. So as we get into the statistics of the particular storm, these are based off of the 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. At 11 o'clock, Hurricane Ian was a very strong Category 4 storm, almost a Category 5 storm. It had 155 mile-per-hour winds, and it was moving north-northeast at 8 miles an hour. Ian was 233 miles from Chatham County. Chatham County is currently under a storm surge warning. We are under a tropical storm warning, and about 30 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago, they put us into a hurricane watch, which was a new watch for us. I did get in touch with the National Weather Service in Charleston, and he indicated that because of the uncertainty of the path of the storm, they wanted to go ahead and lean forward and make sure that they had this watch in place just in case. So as the storm is coming across the peninsula of Florida, it has a tendency to do a variety of different things. The forecast models for this storm are not as tightly converged as we would like for them to be, which is why the uncertainty exists. Some of these models have it coming back into Georgia, some of them have them going out into the Atlantic, some of them have it accelerating way up into the northwest part of the Atlantic. So we will continue to watch every advisory that comes out, and we will take seriously those watches and warnings that are affecting our particular area. In Chatham County, we can expect to have tropical storm force winds. This is something that we have been talking about for a while. We've been talking about them in the terms of tropical storm gusts. With this latest shift, that does present a challenge for us as far as sustained tropical storm force winds. It looks like the predominance of that major threat is going to be throughout the day Friday as of right now. So the conditions should start deteriorating throughout the day Thursday, with it getting worse Thursday night, moving into Friday, Friday night as well, and then in the early hours, mornings of Sunday. Chatham County is under a local state of emergency. The chairman signed a local state of emergency at 8 a.m. this morning. That also put us into operating condition 2, which allows us to begin wrapping up any preparedness efforts for this storm. Governor Kemp has also issued a state of emergency for all 159 counties in the state of Georgia. And what this allows, it allows the government, local governments to reach out to the state for any resources that the state can provide. So it opens up emergency management chains at a local level all the way to the state level. So anything that we can't procure or get locally, including staffing, we can then work up the food chain to the state and ask them to provide staffing or any other resource that we are having trouble sourcing here. So our Emergency Operations Center, as I mentioned, we are under an OPCON 2, so because of that, we have a Level 2 activation of our Emergency Operations Center. This is our storm readiness phase, and we are operating in this building, and we have a variety of staff downstairs who are making situational assessment summaries of various partners throughout the community just to make sure that they are ready to go for the storm, and also to make sure that we are addressing any unmet needs that they may have. We've been in contact with the Command Policy Group, which is composed of mayors, city managers, the superintendent of the Board of Education, the sheriff, the chief judge, and also Department of Public Health. So all of those have been, did I mention the Board of Education superintendent? Okay. So we've been having calls with them in the morning to talk about storm threat, and I give them what my recommendations are. We talk that through, and then we make a determination as to which way to go as a county. For this particular storm, there are several things that I would like to pass along for the general public. As far as safety and security goes, we've been in touch with all of our law enforcement entities. We've been in touch with fire service and EMS providers, and they all assure us that they are ready to go. They don't have any unmet needs at this time, and they're ready to respond to the storm. For transportation, we reached out to the Savannah Airport, and the airport is open. There is a possibility there could be some airline or flight changes or cancellations as the storm gets closer to us, but the airport is intending to remain open right now. As far as our roadways go, we have looked at what the potential impacts could be to our road network, our bridges, and making sure that we are coordinating with Georgia Department of Transportation as well as law enforcement entities to close bridges should they become unsafe, and also with the amount of storm surge that's associated with this event, there is a possibility for flooding to create isolation issues, especially on the east side of Chatham County. So we're watching that closely as well. The Talmadge Bridge specifically, we get a lot of questions about that as to when the Talmadge Bridge is going to be closed. We don't make that determination. That's the Georgia Department of Transportation. They will make that determination when to close. However, law enforcement can also make that determination if they deem that the bridge is unsafe to travel. So those are the two entities who will make those decisions in closing that bridge. As far as the Georgia Ports Authority go, standard operations for them. They have activated their teams to make sure that they are covering all the pre-storm needs for that facility, and they will have any issues that they may have, we will address those independently. We do have a member of Georgia Power with us today, and I will bring her up in just a few minutes, and she will talk about power outages and power preparedness from Georgia Power's standpoint. We've reached out to the hospitals to talk about their readiness status. They are all operating normally with no plans for modification, and this is St. Joe, Candler, and Memorial. As far as sheltering goes, we have had numerous conversations about sheltering. We've talked with Salvation Army, with Union Mission, we've talked with the Homeless Authority, and there are a lot of brilliant people who are putting their minds together about sheltering. So we're still working on that, and I think as a community we'll be ready to go should it be needed. From the pets standpoint, it is encouraged that you have all of your veterinary records together. Make sure your pet is wearing a collar in case they get lost from you or displaced from you for whatever reason. We are also encouraging the general public to go ahead and put your emergency kit together if you don't already have one. We want you to have those supplies readily available to you should you need those. And this isn't something that we're saying just for this storm. This is what we advertise all year long, to have an emergency plan and to have an emergency kit. So if you don't have a kit, go ahead and start putting one together. There are a ton of resources online where you can get the basics of a kit and then throw other items in there that are specific to your family. If you have small kids, you may want to put some books in there to read, some small games just to keep them occupied. If you have pets, maybe put their favorite toy in there. So tailor that kit to meet the needs of yourself and your family. We also encourage everyone tonight to go through your yard and secure anything that could easily be blown around. We do have the potential for high winds coming in Thursday night and into Friday, so you don't want to create any kind of wind-blown hazard for yourself or for your neighbors. So go ahead and secure those items. Would encourage you also to take documents of those things that are around your house that you feel are valuable, whether they have sentimental value or whether they have monetary value. We encourage you to take photographs of those so you can document that for insurance purposes. Also, all government entities, I see the City of Savannah is here to address City of Savannah issues. We have had a conference call, again, with Command Policy Group where all the municipalities were represented, and they are all prepared and ready for the storm. City of Savannah has issued their own operating condition, and Mr. Mayor will talk about that in a minute. Tybee Island, they have secured their structures today, and they are looking at providing sandbags to their citizens. Chatham County Health Department, they are looking to suspend operations on Thursday and Friday of this week. Public and private schools, no decision has been made on public and private schools as of yet. That is the one question that we get asked the most. We have been in conversations with the school board. We talk to them several times a day. They have not made a determination as of this press conference as to what they are going to do with the school system. So stay tuned for that. They will make a decision with prudent time for us to put that in place. We've also reached out to our cell phone providers to see if there were any challenges with our cell phone providers. We reached out to Verizon and AT&T just to make sure that we were covering everything. Xfinity also. None of the cell phone providers have provided us any challenges. They don't have any unmet needs. They feel pretty confident in being able to support the communications network as we deal with this storm. So that is my update in a nutshell. I would like to, are we doing, okay. Lady, I'm going to invite Lady up, and she's going to translate this information into Spanish, and then we will invite up Mr. Mayor and also Ms. Swan-Seiler to give you a brief on their efforts.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes a todos. Yo les voy a dar un pequeño resumen de los puntos que CIMA, el director de CIMA, ha compartido con todos ustedes. Bienvenidos y gracias a todos los que nos acompañan el día de hoy. En nombre de la Agencia de Manejo de Emergencias de Georgia, del director de la Agencia de Manejo de Emergencias del Condado de Chatham, el señor Dennis Jones, de nuestro presidente de la Junta de Comisionados, el señor Chester. Además, también gracias a la oficina del senador Ossoff por comunicarse con nosotros esta mañana. Perdón. Y gracias a todos por venir y los que nos están viendo en este momento en línea. El huracán Ian está impactando a la Florida en este momento mientras nos encontramos aquí reunidos. Nuestros pensamientos están con nuestros vecinos de la Florida mientras reciben la ira de esta tormenta. Mi mensaje a los residentes del condado de Chatham es que ahora no es el momento de temer, es hora de prepararnos y tomar medidas. Hemos estado trabajando unidos como un solo Chatham con todos nuestros municipios para tomar las mejores decisiones para todo el condado. Estamos trabajando juntos para compartir nuestras ideas y nuestros recursos si es necesario. Pase lo que pase, seguiremos siendo fuertes. Ahora, el resumen de la situación de lo que está pasando con Ian a las 11 de la mañana, de acuerdo al Centro Nacional de Huracanes. El huracán Ian tiene fuertes vientos de categoría 4, 155 millas por hora, moviéndose al noroeste a 9 millas por hora. Ian se encuentra actualmente en el extremo sur de la Florida. Los impactos de Ian son 233 millas al sur de Chatham. Y el condado de Chatham en este momento se encuentra en las siguientes vigilancias y advertencias. La advertencia de marejada ciclónica. El peligro de inundación potencial es mortal por el aumento del agua que se mueve tierra adentro desde la costa en algún lugar dentro del área especificada, generalmente dentro de las próximas 36 horas. Hay una advertencia de tormenta tropical que se emite cuando se esperan vientos sostenidos de 39 a 73 millas por hora o más asociados con un ciclón tropical en 36 horas o menos. Estos vientos pueden ir acompañados de marejadas ciclónicas, inundaciones costeras y o inundaciones fluviales. También hay una alerta de huracán, que significa que las condiciones de huracán son posibles dentro del área. Esto significa que esta alerta se emite 48 horas antes del inicio anticipado de los vientos de fuerza de tormenta tropical. También se esperan vientos con fuerza de tormenta tropical y una lluvia esperada de 4 a 8 pulgadas, que son cantidades altas a lo largo de la costa. El condado de Chatham está bajo un estado de emergencia local a partir de las 8 de la mañana de hoy. El gobernador Brian Kemp ha emitido también un estado de emergencia para todo el estado de Georgia, incluyendo todos los counties, los condados. Perdón. Okay. Ahora la información sobre el Centro de Operaciones de Emergencia. En este momento nos encontramos en condiciones de funcionamiento 2. Significa que es una fase de preparación para tormentas. Estamos preparándonos para cualquier impacto que el huracán pueda traer a nuestra área. Nuestro centro de operaciones de emergencia se activa en un nivel 2 con personal selecto que se encuentra trabajando en este edificio. Y nos estamos preparando para cualquier impacto potencial del huracán Ian. Las prioridades en este momento son coordinar con todas las partes interesadas, residentes, socios, negocios, sobre la gestión de emergencias, y también las principales tareas incluyen hacer llamadas, tener conferencias como estas, proporcionar información y recursos a nuestros residentes, según sea necesario. En la medida que más información vaya saliendo disponible, asimismo la iremos comunicando. Líneas de vida del condado. Para seguridad, por favor, solo continúen aplicando la ley. Hay también líneas de fuego. Si necesitan algún recurso, pueden comunicarse también. También hay búsqueda y rescate. También pueden hacer alguna llamada de emergencia si es necesario. En cuanto a transporte, nos hemos comunicado con el aeropuerto y el aeropuerto en este momento permanecerá abierto. Sin embargo, pueden haber interrupciones en los vuelos a partir de mañana y por más tardar hasta el domingo, dependiendo de las condiciones actuales pronosticadas. Entonces, en este caso, por favor, asegúrese de ponerse en contacto con su aerolínea en caso tal de que tenga algún vuelo reservado para que no pierda su vuelo o pueda tener información más actual sobre si se ve afectado o no. En cuanto a las vías, es necesario conocer que en este momento hay una gran posibilidad de que el camino hacia Tybee se vea afectado y por tanto sea aislado, y otras áreas bajas también a partir del jueves por la noche debido a las altas mareas. La autopista 80 hacia Tybee también puede ser un poco transitable debido a estas inundaciones y por favor, en este caso, tomen las respectivas medidas desde mañana en la noche. También nos gustaría recordarle el siguiente dicho, que es: date la vuelta y no te ahogues. Cuando te acerques a una carretera cubierta de agua, no conduzcas a través del agua. Podría ser muy peligroso e incluso hacer que pierdas el control de tu coche, o en caso tal que se pueda inundar el motor. Es mejor darse la vuelta y buscar otro camino. Acerca de los puentes, una de las preguntas más frecuentes es sobre el Talmadge, el puente Talmadge, que no se cerrará hasta el momento a menos que hayan vientos sostenidos con fuerza de tormenta tropical. Los vientos con fuerza de tormenta tropical comienzan en 39 millas por hora. La decisión no es tomada por las autoridades de Chatham County. Esta decisión la toma el Departamento de Transporte de Georgia o en su defecto la policía local si determina que es un peligro transitar por ese puente. En cuanto a energía y combustible, la distribución y las interrupciones, hasta el momento no se conoce ninguna interrupción. Los equipos de Georgia Power están organizando todo su personal y comunicándose con contratistas para tener y asegurar recursos necesarios. También, si necesita más detalles sobre algún posible corte de energía, por favor suscríbase al servicio de alerta de Georgia Power. En cuanto a salud, hospitales y médicos, hasta el momento todos están operando normalmente sin planes de modificación. En relación con comida, agua, refugios, nos hemos comunicado con Salvation Army. Ellos van a estar ofreciendo refugio para mujeres, familias y niños, si usted necesita alguno. También está Union Mission o la organización All Savannah City Mission para refugio de hombres, en caso tal que usted necesite buscar un refugio. También se ha coordinado con la autoridad de Chatham y Savannah para personas sin hogar, más conocida por sus siglas CSHA, que están ayudando a monitorear la necesidad de algún refugio para personas sin hogar, especialmente personas de bajos ingresos. Otros mensajes: sugerimos y motivamos a todos los residentes a que reúnan suministros a tiempo. Los suministros pueden incluir alimentos no perecederos, linternas, baterías y otros artículos importantes. No olviden a sus mascotas cuando preparen sus suministros. Prepárese también para los impactos de los vientos con fuerza de tormenta tropical. Esto es, asegure los artículos que se encuentran en este momento afuera de sus residencias y traten de llevarlos dentro de su hogar o en algún lugar seguro. También documente todos los artículos importantes dentro de su hogar. Si considere tomar fotos o videos si necesita presentar algún reclamo al seguro. Encuentre también una manera de mantenerse informado. Puede suscribirse para obtener alertas de CIMA, solo enviando un mensaje de texto con la palabra CIMA, CICEME, al número 77295. En cuanto a las oficinas gubernamentales, todos los municipios se están preparando para posibles impactos de la tormenta Ian o del huracán Ian. La ciudad de Savannah emitió un estado de emergencia y también se trasladó a la condición operativa 2. En este caso, comenzará a dotar de personal para atender operaciones 24 horas a partir de mañana. Perdón. La isla de Tybee también está asegurando todas sus estructuras el día de hoy. Perdón. Y está entregando disponible 2,000 sacos de arena y 54 toneladas de arena para los residentes que lo requieran. El Departamento de Salud Pública del Condado de Chatham ha suspendido todas sus operaciones a partir de mañana hasta el viernes. En cuanto a las escuelas públicas y privadas, no se ha tomado ninguna decisión en cuanto al cierre de ellas, pero se irá compartiendo información a medida que se haga disponible. Y eso es todo por el momento en cuanto a estas updates.
Thank you, lady. All right, I'd now like to invite up Mayor Johnson for some remarks.
Thank you and good afternoon. Want to definitely thank Chairman Ellis, Director Jones, Manager Kegler, and all of our partners. When a storm comes, we're all in the same boat. And so we act collectively, we work collaboratively, and so therefore we are pleased for the partnership. I'm going to have City Manager Jay Melder talk more specifically about some of our operational things, but I wanted to lift a few things. First thing is that I solicit the thoughts and prayers of this community for our friends on the west side, the southwest into Florida, who are staring down a Hurricane 4 or 5, and Dennis would know the difference, but the fact is a bad storm is a bad storm, and this is a storm of historic proportions that, by all accounts, will devastate that community. Any impacts we will have will pale in comparison to what they're facing, so certainly I hope and trust that we will, as a collective community, be able to find ways to assist them once this has passed. I've heard and spoken to Senator John Ossoff and Senator Raphael Warnock personally over the last day or so, both extending their not only best wishes, but their offer of assistance for federal assistance should we need it, or any loopholes, not loopholes, but any barriers that we find ourselves in. So we're glad to have their assistance with us. I signed a declaration of local emergency, 8 o'clock, concurrent with Chairman Ellis's order for the city of Savannah, which authorizes us to activate our emergency operations plan. It authorizes the city manager to take actions on behalf of the city of Savannah to make sure that we are prepared. The city manager will talk more about some of the work that they've been doing, particularly in and around our city. I've been particularly concerned about those in our city that do not have roofs over their heads, and Dennis has alluded to that. The Salvation Army is the primary shelter for women, families, and children, while the Union Mission and the Old Savannah City Mission are available to provide additional inclement weather bed space for men. The Homeless Authority Street Outreach and PATH teams are spending the day canvassing our community to disseminate this information to those who are unsheltered, particularly in those areas that we know are low-lying encampment areas, give them an opportunity, if they wish, to be transported to local shelters that have available inclement bed space. I think finally, before I turn over to Mr. Melder, I want to remind our citizens on that which we know. We are a city that has been protected by God's grace over all of these years. Secondly, we have the best team in the business on the field. The Chatham Emergency Management Agency are nationally renowned for what they do, and this is what they do all of the time, preparing for days like this. And now they are executing, we are executing what we have prepared for all of this time. I like our chances. I like our chances. What we do need, though, is that a plan is not effective unless everybody is in line with the plan. And so for our citizens, and I've got a lot of calls and inquiries about this, if we ask you to evacuate, we would ask you to evacuate. It has been the consistent decision and advice of SEMA that is not within the plans for this particular event. And so we're asking you to stay where you are, but make sure you're prepared. Be prepared. You know how Savannah is. You know that there are places that flood. Unfortunately, some of those things we can't do anything about because that's how our low-lying land is. But if we know that it floods, then let's avoid those places in advance. The areas that we know are particularly challenged, then please, again, let us know. We'll be moving to 24-hour operations to include our 311 service to be able to take those calls and address those in real time. We'll have a rough couple of days, and then we will assess where we are, and I predict that we'll be okay. But please use common sense. Please look after your neighbors. Please look after those who are elderly or those who are infirm, those that we should be checking on anyway. And know that certainly your city, and I'm sure the chairman will say that the county, we're here to be able to assist where we can. We're all in this together. We're all going in this together, and we're all going to come out of this together. Mr. Melton.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Thank you, Chairman Ellis. I'm Jay Melder, City Manager for the City of Savannah. Thanks to the coordination collaboration with the Chatham Emergency Management Agency, the City of Savannah is well prepared for this event. We have been working since Friday to clear our stormwater conveyance systems to make sure that they are optimal for the rain event that we're expecting later this week, and optimizing our pump stations to make sure that we can move water effectively off of our streets and off of our system and into the river as it comes down. Savannah Police and Savannah Fire are in full force and will be until the conclusion of the event. Along with the county, the city has also fully activated its Emergency Operations Center, and we will be operating 24 hours beginning tomorrow morning, and that includes 311. So for Savannah residents, if you see an issue, please call 311. We will be answering the phone 24 hours a day. You can also use the 311 app, which you can download from your smartphone at SAV 311. Those are highly effective tools, and we ask residents to please use those to alert us to issues that might be happening in our city so that we can address them. As it relates to city services, we fully expect that all city services will be fully operational for tomorrow, Thursday, for the entirety of the day, to include our rec and leisure, our senior programming, and all city offices will be open and operational tomorrow. A decision about Friday will be made between this evening and tomorrow morning. We want to let you know that your sanitation pickups for tomorrow will happen as scheduled. And after your pickup occurs tomorrow, if tomorrow is your pickup date, please secure your waste bins and protect them from becoming debris for your home and for your neighbors. And other than that, we ask you to please follow all the guidance that SEMA provides. Sign up for their text alerts and for their emails. It's the best way to get information from Chatham County and from the City of Savannah regarding this event. Thank you.
And I would be remiss, Alderman Dietrich Leggett from the 2nd District is here on his 50th birthday, so just had to recognize him.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Melder. You know, two things that we get asked all the time is what is the school board doing and is the power going to go out? So to wrap it up, I'd like to bring up Ms. Swan Seiler from Georgia Power to talk about power.
Good afternoon. I'm Swan Seiler in External Affairs with Georgia Power. Locally, Georgia Power remains in a state of readiness. We have secured and resecured our staging areas for incoming resources. We are finalizing our logistics, which is our hotels and meals for incoming crews as well as our own. We are reviewing our personnel plans. As you know, if you work for Georgia Power Company, everyone has a job during a storm. We are postured to remain flexible until we know what we need to do. And I do want to emphasize that we do have the necessary equipment and supplies to get through this storm. If customers need information, I want to recommend that they go to www.georgiapower.com/storm. That way they can report their outages and they can check the outage map to see specifically how it's affecting their area.
We hope that we have given the public all the information they need that as we ride out this storm. And let me just say this, because all of us have been receiving calls asking us, should we evacuate? This is not a storm that we should evacuate. And if you evacuate, where are you going to go? Because this thing is stretching from the top of Georgia to the bottom of Georgia, the whole entire county. As Mayor said, we have been in touch with both our senator's office, and just before I came out, I got an email from the governor's office. He's coming tomorrow, all right, and he's going to have his own press conference tomorrow at the airport. And so the statewide, all 159 counties are included in this, all right? And so if there are any questions from the media at this time, we'll answer those questions specifically.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Question regarding, safety plan when it comes to first responders, and it might be for Dennis. Is it anticipated at any point as the storm affects our area or impacts our area that first responders won't be able to get out because conditions will be too unsafe for them should somebody have an emergency?
Well, we'll make that determination as we go, all right? But we know now that what we're expecting is 35 to 40 miles per hour winds, and we expect it to be some flooding a lot of places, all right? So as the need arises, if we have to hunker in our first responders, then we will make that determination. But again, a whole lot of things will come out tomorrow morning when we will have our briefing again, okay, in the morning. Things of tweeting and getting down to the last I and the last T probably will be waiting until tomorrow, because we are being advised by the National Weather Service, plus we are being advised by our embedded members of FEMA and GEMA and SEMA, all right? And we're taking all those things into advice, but that's a call that the county will make when it needs to make it. Let me say this now. Mayor Johnson was the only one who was able to come, but on our meeting this morning, all municipalities were represented either by their mayor or by their manager. So we're all on the same page, making sure we do the same thing. The school board, I think, now is in meeting at this present time, okay? And they will make determinations about the school. But I think what we're looking at now is things will start to deteriorate sometime after 6 o'clock tomorrow, Thursday, and get worse as we go into Friday. So I think we all are leaning towards Friday. But understand this, the school board is going to drive a lot of what we do, because if the kids are not in school, then that means that the governmental entity is going to have to make adjustments to that too.
It's Edward Moody from WSAV. Is anyone here from CAT? What's the situation with public transportation into tomorrow? And of course, probably, I'm sure, shutting down as of Friday, right?
Well, they didn't come, but CAT is a part of what we do too, all right? And also, we will be in contact with them, as well as, let me say this as well. Just before I came in, I was in a meeting with the president from Georgia Southern, and I was in a meeting earlier this morning from Dr. Ballard Washington from Savannah State. She too has COVID, all right? So we are communicating over the phone, but the president was here, okay? He couldn't stay for the press conference because he had another engagement, but we are also looking at those students on campus on both places as to how we take care of them, as well as what services CAT will, when it will dumb down its services and when folks will need to get from one place to the other. But yes, they're part of the command group that knows what the plans are.
And the joint local emergency declarations, and Mr. Melder, you touched on this, but can you just give us some specifics of what that allows you all to do now? This just brings everybody together, is that what we're saying?
Okay, let me give you the beginning of it, and then I'll ask Director Jones to get into the specifics of it, okay? The governor sets out a declaration of emergency. Following the governor, then the chairman does. Then following the chairman, all of the municipalities do. Now what that does is that puts everybody on the same page, and exactly what's on that page, that's what I want Director Jones to tell you. What do we mean by we're going to go up to 2, or we'll move down to 2?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chairman mentioned, the governor has issued his local state of emergency that covers all 159 counties. And what that allows is state resources to be available to local governments, to be able to bring in resources like Georgia Emergency Management Agency, Colin Hoff here, to come and work in our Emergency Operations Center, to be there, to be eyes and ears, and also to report back any challenges to the state. It allows us that opportunity to streamline coordination efforts at the state level. It also frees up the opportunity for us to get guard resources from the state as well. So we have maximum support from the state with the issuance of that emergency declaration. When the chairman issues his declaration, that puts into place a variety of different things that are relevant to local government, such as emergency building licenses, price gouging, making sure that if there are any laws that are in conflict with what we are trying to do, the chairman can temporarily suspend those laws. So it's a wide range of flexibility that is given to the chairman when a state of emergency is issued for a county, because it allows that chairman to really do what is necessary in order to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to mitigate the effects of that disaster. So that declaration is covered countywide, and then municipalities also have the opportunity to implement additional measures through an emergency order, and I'll let the city of Savannah talk about theirs.
Thank you. It's a very similar process. It allows, signing it allows us to implement procedures on the city level. It allows us to, in addition to price gouging and building licenses, emergency issues, it allows us to set a curfew should we need to be able to do that. And it bypasses the normal bureaucracy that would be required to do so. You are very familiar with those things because we went through a lot of that in COVID. Having the emergency orders allowed us to take emergency actions as we see fit. So although the governor can do it for the county can do it for the county, the city has to do it for the city to allow city resources and city procedures to be used. So again, this is a part of the plan. This is how we work the plan, and we work together to be able to make sure that we are acting expeditiously in the interest of our citizens.
All right, before I go to the next question, let me ask Chief Enoch from the school board. All right, if he'll come and he can tell you what they have given him directions for.
Yes, good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for your patience. As you know, that safety of our students and staff is always our #1 priority. From Dr. Ann Levette, our superintendent, and Dr. Joe Buck, our board president. We are meeting as we speak. A pre-notification went out to parents on yesterday, so they are familiar with the options that we have for tomorrow and for Friday. That decision, as I'm speaking, will be made, so I don't want to get ahead of my skis. Just know that we are taking all those considerations in mind. We've activated our emergency operation plan. Part of that is to ensure if there's any damage that we respond appropriately with collaboration from all of our partners to make sure that we get our schools back up and running as soon as possible. So that's the update. You should be getting something shortly if you be patient with us. Thank you so much.
Okay, question?
Hey, Zoe Nicholson, Savannah Morning News. Do you have any idea about how much storm surge we may see and whether it coincides with the tide charts or anything like that?
Well, the one thing we do have in place is that we're expecting, 10 feet? Am I correct? 10.8 tides, okay. Which means now, especially if you live on Tybee, you know that's going to cover Highway 80, all right? But besides Highway 80, there are streets in Chatham County. MLK at Victor Drive, 37th at MLK. On the east side, you're talking about Henry Street. You're also talking about Drayton Street around 36th, 37th, 35th. Those places that normally have water, expect water to be there. It's just that we don't know how much water will be there because the projection is anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of rain, all right? So that's a lot of water. We know the water is coming, but we also know we need to be safe because if you're getting 35 to 40 miles an hour gusts of wind, we know some trees gonna fall, we know some power lines gonna fall, so folks need to be careful, all right, as we ride out the storm. Expect some power to go out. That's why we're asking you to get your emergency kits in place so that you have your medicine, so that you have your bottled water, all right, so that you, when that electricity goes out, your refrigerator, let it stay closed so it'll stay cool until after all this is passed. But we hope to get everything back up and running. But the first thing will happen after the storm has passed is that we will do an assessment, our teams will do an assessment of what is, where is, okay?
And then I noticed yesterday on the east side, there were some trees getting cut down. Is that something that the city or the county just does?
That's
in
preventive
advance?
measures.
Okay.
And what we have asked now is just wasn't the city on the east side or the west side, or just wasn't the county, but all the municipalities check their basins, all right? They check their properties, they check those trees and other things that are leaning, all right, to kind of get that in order. So that's what you saw. And let me say it's for the entire county, okay? Because this is the third day that we've had command policy meetings to talk about how we prepare for this.
This is to kind of follow up a little bit on storm
Sure.
surge. I don't know if Dennis wants to answer this or whoever can. I guess preliminary reports could be 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. How concerned are you guys for that, with Tybee Island, especially in some of the low-lying areas with that?
All right, let me begin by saying extremely, all right? That's why we're in constant communications with Mayor Sessions and the city manager to know what effects it'll have on them, because if it affects them, it affects the whole county, okay? And so now he can give you the specifics of what's been the data that has been given to us about the storm surge.
You are correct. Our current storm surge threat is 3 to 5 feet. And what is exasperated beyond that is a very high tide sequence that's coming about. So overnight Thursday, we could be expecting upwards of a 10.8 tide, which will cause isolation issues going out to Tybee Island and some of the other island areas on the east side of the county. So the good news with that is it will come in and it will go out. So as the tide draws out, it'll draw the storm surge out as well. And hopefully this system, if it keeps tracking a little bit further to the east, then our storm surge potential decreases. So we'll keep watching it with every advisory. We have several more advisories before the actual storm surge threat actually gets to us. So we are hopeful that that storm surge will track its way further east with the track, but we'll have to keep watching that with every advisory. But we are concerned about it. That is something that we have been watching for the last several days, running storm surge models, taking a look at what areas could potentially flood, and communicating that with the city managers as well as the county officials who work in those areas.
Let me add. Oftentimes, storm surge is the scariest and most dangerous of a part of a storm. A couple of storms ago, Mike Cagle and I were down on River Street, just checking out things. And the water had risen to the point where River Street, the Recycles Plaza, was underwater. Absolutely terrifying. And so therefore, the timing of all of this, as Dennis has said, is extremely important. Not only in those areas, but also areas downstream.
So we've got a couple of questions coming in from Facebook Live. First,
Okay.
What should someone do if they are in their home and it begins to flood? Not sure who wants to take that.
Well, I think the first thing you would do is, let me prepare folks, okay? Charge your cell phones, all right? And charge your tablets so that you have a means of communication. And if your home starts to flood, dial 911 in case we need to send somebody in to get you out of that particular place. It's better to be prepared, and we're prepared for those things with our emergency services. That's what our first responders and those will do. All right, our fire departments, whether we are talking about in the city of Savannah or throughout Chatham County. Okay, those first responders would be the one that would respond to that first.
Thank you. The second question that we're getting quite a bit is, where can people find sandbags?
The sandbags are, I know you can find the sand at Tybee and Port Wentworth. all
For
right?
their residents.
For their residents, yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
So we do get that question quite frequently. Where can I get sandbags? As of right now, Tybee Island and the city of Port Wentworth, they are providing sandbags and sand for their residents. For other residents throughout Chatham County, we encourage you to go to a commercial source to find sandbags that are suitable for your family and your property. There are no other sandbag distribution sites around the county other than those two.
Just curious, in case we aren't able to get a hold of folks in Port Wentworth, do you know where those will be? Or did they say where those will be distributed?
Yeah, Fire Station number 1, Fire Station number 2, and City Hall.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, anything else?
Would there be, this is I guess more for us, but like decisions on like, I know there's an NPC meeting tomorrow. I don't think there's city council this week. Like agency meetings, will that just come from the particular board or commission, whether
Well,
those are canceled?
No one has told us that they're canceling meetings for tomorrow, okay? We don't have that information. So if MPC is having a meeting tomorrow, they have not let us know whether they're canceling it or not. I know one meeting that the chamber was having, okay? They've canceled that for tomorrow. But I think the majority of where we are concentrating is from 6 o'clock tomorrow on into Friday and Saturday.
Okay, we've got another question coming in from Facebook. How is Ian different than Hurricane Irma, which we evacuated for and caused flooding?
Position is number one, all right? And then I'm telling you all now, I let Director Jones go into all that technical stuff, all right? I know it was coming. That's why you think I told you to get ready for it.
We talked about this morning, actually. So with Hurricane Irma, that storm approached Chatham County from the south, directly from the south. It actually hit South Florida, and the center of circulation traveled up the state of Florida overland, but the major convection and the high energy of that storm stayed off into the Atlantic. So as Irma was coming up, it stayed really, really intense. It allowed that storm surge to build off the coast of Florida. It came right up and brought all that storm surge into Chatham County because it had a lot of opportunity in order to build that and sustain that energy, because even though the eye was over land, the energy of the storm was over the Atlantic. So with this particular storm, it's a Gulf approaching storm. At some point, the entire storm is going to be over land, in which it will start to die down considerably. As it enters into the Atlantic, it has that opportunity to intensify again. However, right now there is a very short period of time where it is over open water to where it is very limited as to how much intensity it can build. So right now the forecast track also has us just to the southwest of the center of circulation, which means that most of the storm surge is to the front right quadrant. So unfortunately for our partners in South Carolina, the storm surge threat there is much greater than what it would be here on its current forecast track. If that track shifts a little bit further to the east, it even looks better for us. So that's the difference between the two storms.
Do you know what time the governor's presser is tomorrow? They said we didn't see 9 a.m.
I think it's 9.
9 a.m.
It's 9:30.
9:30.
9:30.
Yeah.
They're setting up
It's at the
9,
airport.
and it's at the airport.
Right. Yeah, I just got the I just got the email and I read it, and then and that's when they came and told me you late. Right. So I was getting out of there. I was doing that, and I was wrapping up the conference I was having with the president from Georgia Southern. All right. If there's any changes, we will make sure that the public knows. We will make sure you know. But what we know, you know now. Okay. And so we'll go from there. All right. Thank you all for coming. All right, and thank all of them for being here, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Alderman. All right, all the members, especially now. He doesn't say much, but we've got our GMA friend. He's right in the mix with us, okay? So the state is getting our information just as you're getting our information. And as I said this morning, we were able to get Senator's staff in and they listen in on our briefing this morning. So they are quite aware of what's going on. They haven't lived it. All right, both of them being in Georgia, having lived it, they're just as concerned about our citizens as we are. And then the governor will be here tomorrow. All right, thank you and have a great day.
can go to green room for a second. Okay, come on.